Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. After finishing Birbfest, I really feel like I found my way back into a good creative flow. Drawing feels fun again and I've had so many ideas lately. For this video I was really in the mood to have a cozy time in my sketchbook and draw sweets and cupcakes. So I started scrolling through Pinterest for inspiration, and that's when I realized that Valentine's Day is coming up and it felt like the perfect excuse to combine both. Of course, I had to use colored pencils for this. I've really fallen back in love with working with them in the sketchbook. For a long time, I mostly used colored pencils just for mixed media, but since starting this Ohuhu sketchbook, I've been enjoying using them on their own again. The paper is perfect for layering and blending. It can handle a lot, and the colors turn out so rich and vibrant. I love the final result, but honestly the process is what makes this so enjoyable for me. I haven't had this much fun just sketching and coloring in a long time. I started this page with the cupcake simply because that's what I was most excited about. I chose a pretty simple one with chocolate frosting and a little red heart on top. These kind of subjects used to intimidate me a lot, but now I know how to simplify things and focus more on building up colors and layers instead of trying to copy every tiny detail perfectly. For the second illustration, I went with this heart-shaped lollipop. Candy is actually such an interesting subject to draw because it's transparent and has all these soft color transitions with strong highlights and shadows. I wanted the sketchbook session to feel cozy overall, but I also enjoy adding a small challenge here and there. I actually spent quite a while looking for the right reference for this one. A lot of images on Pinterest look delicious, but not all of them work well as drawing references. Some have very little contrast, which can make a drawing look flat, and some objects are just not that interesting to draw. I knew I really wanted to include a small cake on this page, and I also had plenty of space left when I came across this reference. it immediately clicked, partly because I haven't drawn strawberries in a long time and they are something I usually struggle with, so I saw it as a good opportunity to practice again, especially with colored pencils because I'm used to paint strawberries with watercolors. It was definitely a challenge. The strawberry is sliced in half but also kind of squeezed into a heart shape, and for a long time the drawing honestly looked like nothing, but I was really surprised by how well it came together in the end. What also fascinated me about this reference was the chocolate sauce dripping down the cheesecake. Shiny, reflective surfaces are always interesting to draw because they have very deep shadows, but also a lot of highlights and different brightness levels. I took my time building up those colors slowly. I also noticed that my polychromos alone weren't quite enough for this piece, so I mixed in Caran d'Ache Pablos and luminance pencils, which is totally fine. There is nothing wrong with combining different colored pencils, they work together perfectly. I spent the most time on this illustration and it's definitely my favorite of all four on this page. I wanted it to feel as realistic as possible without copying the reference exactly, so it still keeps that illustrated look. While looking for reference photos, I came across this cappuccino cup and thought, okay, there is a heart in the foam, so it actually fits the Valentine's theme perfectly. I also kind of wanted to challenge myself with this one and see if I could pull it off. In the reference photo, the cup was white, but I didn't really feel like trying to render white using only gray tones. Plus, the main colors on this page are reds and browns, and I wanted something more complementary, so turquoise felt like the perfect choice. I think it really balanced the whole page and made everything pop nicely. I did run into a few blending issues though. I layered some color first and then used a Derwent blender to smooth everything out, but when I tried to continue layering on top, I started getting these darker patchy spots. I'm not entirely sure what caused it. Maybe one of the pencils picked up some pigment along the way. Normally I blend at the very end and only add small details afterwards. This time I tried doing it differently and it didn't work quite as smoothly, but honestly that's exactly what sketchbooks are for, trying things out and learning along the way. In the end, I think I managed to fix it pretty well. Staying calm really helps. Even when something looks streaky or messy at first, you can usually bring it back. What really surprised me though was how well the cappuccino foam turned out. For the longest time while drawing I kept thinking this looks completely wrong, but layer by layer, and once I blended everything in the right order, it finally clicked. At the end I could actually see what it was supposed to be. So yeah, trust the process. Sometimes you stay in the ugly stage for a long time, but if you keep going, it usually comes together in the end. For the last part, I chose this fairly simple heart-shaped cookie with jam in the middle. The jam was actually just as interesting to draw as the lollipop earlier, even though the textures are completely different. One is a hard candy, the other is soft and glossy, but the way light and color behave is surprisingly similar. I really enjoyed working with all these different red tones, but throughout this whole page I noticed that I struggled a bit with shading reds properly. I had darker reds, but they didn't always give me the depth I was looking for. Up until this point it wasn't a huge issue, but with the final heart-shaped macaron it definitely became more noticeable. I also drew it a little too small, which made everything even trickier. It was hard to capture on camera because the colored pencil layer is a bit too shiny. I should have changed camera angle there, so sorry for that. Over the next few days I definitely want to sit down and practice layering more, especially figuring out which colors work best together when shading reds. That's something I really want to improve. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching this sketchbook session and that it inspired you to spend some time in your own sketchbooks, or maybe even bake or eat some cake. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys!